Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Big Donch Podcast, Ep.5 of our Sports World Weekly. Some pretty big things happened over the past couple days, but like always, of course, biggest things that happen are usually 1 or 2 days after I upload my last podcast, especially with the J.J. Watt being cut, Pouncey brothers retiring, the fan-controlled football league, and Big Ben and the Steelers not agreeing, which hurts as a Steeler fan. But yeah, we'll cover a lot. We'll cover the NFL, obviously the news I just covered. NBA, we'll talk about LeBron and Kuzma being warned on flopping. Obviously, LeBron been known for that ever since his Heat days. And we'll also talk about the Jazz, apparently the best team in the West. And also, some MLB news. Pitchers and catchers reports today for some teams, which is always good news. Always glad to see baseball is coming back. When baseball comes back, it just happened because you have all the warm weather vibes and summer's coming, and I just love that. That's what I love about spring. That's why spring's my favorite season, because I don't play baseball anymore. I do track, but usually when spring's coming, okay, track's starting up, baseball's starting up, and summer's coming, and fishing. If anybody likes fishing, I love fishing. So yeah. We'll start off with the NFL, though. Like I mentioned earlier, J.J. Watt released. We'll talk about where does he go, okay? As anybody who knows J.J. Watt, 5-time All-Pro, 5-time Pro Bowler, and I'm pretty sure 3-time Defensive Player of the Year. Should have got MVP a couple years ago, but got snubbed, but it is what it is. Now, where is he going to go? I generally don't know. Nobody knows, of course, but big rumors were the Steelers, Packers, and Colts. Let's talk about the Steelers. It just won't happen, okay? As much as I would love it, okay, with him, Derek Watt, and TJ Watt, it just won't happen. I don't see us affording a player like JJ Watt, and we don't really need him, okay? Obviously, anybody could use JJ Watt, but we don't need him, all right? He's not the type of player that we need to go out of our way to spend all this money on. Now, if somehow we get rid of a player that costs a lot during this offseason, which I kind of hope we don't, I hope we stick with the same defense we had. Maybe, get rid of Edmonds or something like that. But if we stick with the same team we had on defense, I'm fine with that. Now, if we lose somebody, maybe explore J.J. Watt options. But I'm assuming by the time that even happens, J.J. Watt will probably be close to signing with a team, or even signed with a team by then to begin with. Let's talk about the Packers now. Packers could definitely use him. Maybe J.J. Watt's the missing piece that they need for them to be an actual Super Bowl contender. Yeah, definitely could use him on the defensive line. And the Colts, too, which I think that's where he's going to go. Obviously, they're recruiting him, the Colts defense, saying that this is real football, this is real defense, we don't play around here. Obviously, if anybody watched J.J. Watt this season, and just past 10 years he's been playing, Houston Texans weren't the best team for a player like J.J. Watt. They just didn't really deserve him. Everything he gave to not only the Texans, but the city of Houston. I think he could be a good fit, though, for the Colts with DeForest Buckner, Darius Leonard. They just got to figure out that QB situation. Like I mentioned, I did say Matt Stafford, I'm pretty sure. No, I think I said Matt Stafford to the Patriots. I can't remember. It's either I had Matt Stafford. Obviously, he's not going anywhere now because he's on the Rams, but I had him or Carson Wentz going to the Colts. Right now, I'm favoring Carson Wentz going to the Colts, even though he's pretty expensive. But maybe he could have a second chance, be back to his Pro Bowl self, MVP caliber self. People could forget that in 2017 he was the leading MVP contender until he got hurt, and then Tom Brady took it from him. But yeah, I think the Colts could have a pretty good team, especially with they do big in the draft and signings and free agency as well. Now, as a Steeler fan that's hurt, finding this out, kind of surprising, but Marquise Pouncey, along with his brother Mike Pouncey, retiring. I knew that Pouncey said that if Big Ben goes, he'll go. But Big Ben didn't say he's going yet. We'll talk about that later, though, about him and the Steelers not really agreeing on anything. But that came to me by surprise. I was upset. Pouncey's definitely my favorite lineman in the NFL. Now it's Quentin Nelson because obviously I'm a Notre Dame fan. But Pouncey, Hall of Fame career. Definitely. 9-time Pro Bowler, 3-time All-Pro first team, 2-time second team All-Pro. Sucks he didn't get a Super Bowl, though. That's one player on that Steeler team that I wish got a Super Bowl. Nobody deserves a Super Bowl ring on that team. obviously besides players who already have it. Then Marquise Pouncey. Just sad. We had so many chances, of course. 2017, we had a chance to make it to the Super Bowl. And then this year, we start the season off 11-0. And then obviously that went downhill. But yeah, sucks we'll never see Pouncey get a Super Bowl. Neither of the Pounceys. I liked watching both Pounceys play. Mike Pouncey playing for the Chargers and the Dolphins. But yeah, the second greatest center in Steelers history. Definitely up there. And top offensive lineman in Steelers history. But it is what it is. Don't know what we're going to do now. I can't even remember who our backup center was. I think Wallace. Pretty sure. He had some pretty bad snaps last year when Pouncey was suspended or injured last year. But we'll figure it out. They'll figure it out. I have faith in our GM. Also, a new league popped up over a week. Caught me by surprise. The fan-controlled football league. Didn't really know about it much. I didn't even know this was a real thing. And then I see Johnny Manziel in it. I'm thinking, what? Let's talk about Johnny Manziel. He played in like every football league there is. But that's good for Johnny Manziel. He'll probably never make it to the NFL. I mean, not probably. He won't. He just won't make it back to the NFL. Sadly. Went from a Heisman Trophy winner. But it's the things he did off the field that ruined him. I'm always going to root for him, though. When he played in the CFL, I rooted for him. He wasn't playing too bad. And then he obviously went downhill, got cut. Then he played for, I'm pretty sure, the XFL or the AFL, something like that. One of those teams that, one of those leagues that formed in the spring. And then now this. I don't even know how this works. I heard like only one player only on each team gets to stay with the whole season. All the other players, they play one game, that's it. They get drafted or something like that. I'm not really sure how that works. Don't really care for it. But when I see a play like Johnny Manziel in it, who's trying to get another chance, obviously going to entertain me. But we'll see. I don't know when they play. I think they play on like Saturdays. I didn't even pay attention to that. But I'll be watching it this week, see how it is, see what Johnny Manziel is doing. That's basically why I'm only watching the league for. And just go from there. I'll talk about it in my podcast and my next podcast. Some other Steeler news now. We lost Marquise Pouncey. Don't want to lose Big Ben Roethlisberger. Today we got some news about our GM, not really coming to an agreement yet with what we're going to do with Big Ben. The Steelers cap room, or plus $30 million. We're $30 million in debt. Not looking good for, free agency signings. That's why I was mentioning earlier with J.J. Watt. I just don't see that working out. But Big Ben, all right, this one's going to hurt if we somehow get rid of him. Now, I understand that. $41 million he's expected this year. That's way too much for a 38, 39-year-old quarterback who does not have it anymore. Obviously, $41 million is insane. But we still got to keep him. All right? And he even said that he's willing to take a pay cut to stick with the team. But we'll just have to see. I don't know much news about it. But people keep forgetting he played like one of his best seasons 2 years ago, throwing over 5,000 yards. Was playing great this year, but then once they lost to the football team, it all went downhill. But we'll see what we do with Big Ben. I doubt he goes anywhere. They'll figure something out. Now transitioning into the NBA, we'll talk about LeBron and Kyle Kuzma warned on flopping. Everybody knows LeBron was known for flopping ever since his Heat days. Not really paying attention to the Lakers. I know that Anthony Davis is injured for 2 or 3 weeks with an Achilles injury. Obviously, Achilles injuries pretty dangerous. I'm yawning now because I'm tired. Long day when you're a college student. Long day, but still gotta fit in these podcasts because I enjoy them. But yeah, I don't know what the Lakers are, what they're doing now, but they got warned for flopping, which is good. I never, agree with that flopping stuff. It kind of makes the league look soft. And LeBron, obviously, probably the most notable flopper in the league, and maybe of all time. And of course, nobody said anything to him about it. But I'm glad, though, that they warned him about it. Don't know what the penalty or the foul would be if he does it again or something. Maybe just like a technical or something. I'm not really sure. But I'm just glad it happened. Now let's talk about the Utah Jazz. Beat my 76ers the other day. Ben Simmons putting over 40 points, though. I don't know where that came from. But let's look at the Jazz schedule. not the Jazz schedule, the Jazz record. Let's see it quick. I'm pulling it up on ESPN.com. I like usually having this up when I'm doing this podcast just to have some resources. So the record is 23-5, first in the league, I'm pretty sure. And they've been beating teams by pretty good. They beat the Sixers by 11. Then they beat the Heat by 16. They beat the Bucks by 14. They're beating all their opponents by double digits. I mean, they're legit. You have Donovan Mitchell. I mean, ever since Shaq made those comments on him, he's just been on a mission trying to prove him wrong. In their last, can't even say 20 games, they only had one loss. That's insane, though. Rudy Gobert, too. Everyone's saying he got paid too much, which obviously, in my opinion, at first he was. But he's making up for it now. He's still one of the best. He still is the best defending center in the league. But they're not looking bad, though. You have Mike Conley, who a great defensive point guard. There's a great defensive team. And they might actually be better at defense than offense, which could be a problem. I know they say defense wins championships, but you still got to have some offensive weapons, which obviously you have that in Donovan Mitchell, but that's about it. But, yeah, steals per game, Mike Conley. Mike Conley has 1.4 average in steals per game. Rudy Gobert averaging 13.2 rebounds. And then 2.8 blocks per game. He's definitely an all-star this year. If he doesn't, then that's rigged. But the Jazz are legit. So are the Sixers, though, even though they didn't have Embiid when they lost the other day. They're legit. The Utah Jazz and the 76ers 18-10. They've been losing lately, but they'll be all right. That's the NBA for you. The Jazz. But this is the thing, though. Jazz might have the best record, but they might not be the best team. They're a really good team. They'll probably compete for the finals this year, but a team like the Lakers in a 7-game series, I'm still picking the Lakers, sadly. I wish, that wasn't the case, but that's just how the NBA is. You kind of just know before the season who's going to win. All right, everybody knew last year that the Lakers were going to win. Nobody was going to beat the Lakers. And then the Raptors was a surprise, absolutely, mainly because Kevin Durant and Klay Thompson got hurt that series, but that was definitely a surprise. But then those past 5 years, you knew it was just going to be a matchup between the Cavs and the Warriors. That's really who it was. That's why the NBA, I'm not really into it anymore. You just know who's going to be in the finals every year. It's going to be the Lakers, and East is usually surprising. Basically, wherever LeBron is not in is usually the most competitive. And then whatever conference LeBron's in is usually the least competitive because that team is usually the most dominant. But for the East, I see either the Jazz, Celtics, Bucks, or 76ers taking it. Not the Heat. I don't see the Heat doing it anymore. They had a surprise. They surprised me last year in the bubble, but I don't see them making another run for it this year. But definitely the Jazz. Definitely the Jazz and the 76ers, along with the Celtics and Bucks. Let's look at the standings quick, though. Let's see who's leading in the East for the NBA. Yeah, Eastern Conference. Sixers are at 1. I forgot the Nets. I completely forgot the Nets had that great trio, but I don't think they have the chemistry for this year. Next year, all right, I see them being a top contender, maybe making the finals, but not this year. They still got to get used to each other. Yeah, Pacers, Celtics, Bucks, like I mentioned. I think I mentioned earlier the Jazz being in the East. If I did, my bad. Let's transition, though, into the MLB. Love talking some MLB. Didn't really cover their offseason much. I didn't really cover the MLB offseason much, but pitchers and catchers, though, reporting today, which is always good news. I love the sign of, baseball coming back and spring coming back. You just know it's going to be fun. You just know that, the weather's getting better. And that's why spring's my favorite season. But who are going to be some dominant teams this year? Well, I have the Dodgers, probably being a dominant team. Yankees, of course. But you don't know. That's what I like about the MLB, too, though. You never know who's going to make the finals, not the finals, the World Series either. Nobody really knew the Tampa Bay Rays were going to, make it. You know what I mean? Nobody knew the Nationals were going to win it 2 years ago. But, yeah, we'll see. Usually MLB is one of those things where I I start watching and covering when the season starts. Not really talking much about the off season, but Phillies though, my favorite team. They have such a good roster, but they can't do anything with it. We signed Bryce Harper, and 333 million a year, and that doesn't do anything. But we just signed JT Realmuto, huge signing, very important. Probably the best catcher in the league. Yeah, it was very important though that we signed him. But we'll see. We always have a great roster. But mainly our bullpen though is what's weak with the Phillies right now. But we'll just see. But yeah, short podcast today. Might be a little choppy. My bad. My fault for that. But hopefully you guys did enjoy. Next couple podcasts will be better when I'm more energized and it's earlier in the day. But yeah, just bear with me. Hopefully you guys enjoyed though. Thanks for tuning in. If you guys did, make sure to subscribe on my YouTube, Big Donch. And if you're watching on Spotify, make sure to follow me as well. I'm out. Peace.